Hello and welcome to Learn Data. I'm Nilesh and today we are going to continue learn about pandas. In this video, we'll talk about in what is index and how we can update or change index in a data frame. So let's get started in Jupyter Notebook. I've already created the Jupyter Notebook and imported two libraries, NumPy and pandas. Now for data, we are working on a data frame here. So this data frame, we are creating it with a different method using a zip, and the data frame will have 5 columns. 3 of them would be numbers and 2 would be strings. And the way this is set up is, let me show you how the zip command would work, and that will make it easier to understand. So as you can see, the first element of each list is combined into a tuple, as you see here, and this tuple forms the first row, and then this would be the second row. So the zip is helping us arrange the elements of the list in a row format, and thus give us 4 rows and 5 columns. Now the index and column variables that are listed here, we can go ahead and create them. The index would be the indices for the rows, and to write that we need to type pd.Index, and here we want to make sure that the I in index is capital. So open parenthesis, and in square brackets we'll type the names of the indices. So here I'm going to give A, B, C and D, and we can name this as rows. Similarly, we need to create the similar list for columns. So we'll create columns, and I'm going to delete all of these and type D1 for column 1, D2, then we have D3, D4, and we have D5. And the name, we can change the name to columns. So when we run this together, we get a new data frame that has D1 through D5 as columns and A to D as the rows. Okay, I'm going to delete this part. Now if we need to get the index for this data frame, we can say df.Index, and that gives us the list of all the rows. And if we need the columns, we can say df.columns, and we get the names of all the columns. Now if we need to check if a particular index is used in the data frame, then for example, if you want to check if if it exists in the index, then we can say C in index, and if it returns true, as we would expect, it is used in this particular data frame. Now moving on, let's look at how we can use the set index parameter. So set index. Now to set an index, there are a couple of ways we can do it. One, we can say let's store the new data frame in a new variable df1, and here let's say df.setIndex, and here what we are telling the pandas to do is set the column C from the data frame as column D1 from the data frame as index. So what will happen is, now we have just the rows. Now this particular column 1 2 3 4 would be the index column for that data frame, and as you can see, it's now here, and it is no longer a column for that particular data frame, it's an index. Similarly, we can assign more than one columns from a data frame as an index. Let's say if we have df.setIndex, and here now, since we have more than one, we have to specify them in a list. And let's say we have D1, and along with that we want to specify D3 also as a column to become an index for the data frame. So when we run this, here we have 2 columns, D1 and D3, which are now removed from the columns part, and they are now put on the left hand side for the index for the rows. Now, one thing that you may have noticed here is when the D1 is switched here, we have this column created, but we can also use another parameter along with the D1, which is drop. So if we say df3 is equal to df.set underscore index, and we say d1, and we say drop is equal to false, and then go ahead and run df3. Here what we can see is the d1 column continues to exist in the data frame as well, and after it was used to create the index for the rows. Here the d1 was, when d1 was switched to index, we lost it from the original data frame. But if you set the drop is equal to false, then that column stays in the data frame as is. Moreover, we can also use append is equal to true. So let's try that. df.set underscore index, and here let's say if we use d2 this time and use d5, and now if we say append is equal to true and then run df4, here we can see that those two new columns are converted to indices. Now because of append, the original row index A through D still exist here in the same data frame. So if that is needed, then append is equal to true needs to be set in that particular command for set index. Next, let's look at how to reset index. And reset index is one of the most commonly used command that I've used it, and that's very helpful when you are joining multiple data frames together. So if we have, let's say we have this data frame d4. Now if we go ahead and say, let's put this in d5 and say df4 dot reset underscore index, and when we run this, as you can see, what happens is all the columns. Now if we, before moving on, let's look at the columns. So df.columns f5. So as you can see, only one column of index is there, which is a simple index from 1 to 3. This was generated after we ran the reset index, and the previous indices that were there, which were rows d2 and d5, those now are converted back to columns. And you can see when we ask the data frame what are your columns, it tells us that rows d2 and d5 are columns, they are no more indices. And if we ask d5 what are the indices, then we get so we get that the index starts at 0 and stops before 4. So 0 1 2 3, and then that's the indices that were created in this case. Now when we are creating this particular type of reset index, we can also here specify drop is equal to false. So if we say let's say df6 and df4 dot reset underscore index, and drop is equal to false, sorry, drop is equal to true, and then if we run the df6 and see what we get, all the indices that were there, which was the rows d2 and d5 from this column, all these three, all of them are dropped, and only the columns remain, and a new set of indices is created which runs from 0 1 to up to 3. So this is how the reset index works, and we'll be using a lot of reset index in coming videos and projects. That was it for this video. Hope you understood how the indexing works in Pandas. Please share, like, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.